In this video, we're going to delve into a song that I think is one of the most underrated pop songs ever. It is Up the Junction by Squeeze. Now, this song was released in the UK in 1979 and it reached number 2 in the UK singles chart. So there's multiple reasons why I think this is underrated, but the main one that we are looking at is the key changes. There is a total of 4 key changes in the song. Now that's pretty unusual for a pop song, and you certainly wouldn't really hear that these days, have that many chord changes. Now we're going to actually start off with some non-guitar related reasons why I think it's underrated. The first one is that there is no chorus in the song. Yep, it's pretty unheard of now. It's just a story from start to beginning and there's no chorus that repeats at any point in the song. Number 2 is that the actual song name, Up the Junction, doesn't appear until the very last words of the song, so right at the very end. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of the guitar and the theory that's happening in this song. To start off with, we've got a nice keyboard riff, and then we've got a drum fill, and then he's going to start singing. So there is 2 verses to start off with, and it is all in the same key. It is in the key of E major, and our chord progression goes E major to A, back to E major, and then C sharp minor. Now at the moment there's nothing too much going on here. All of those chords are in the E major, and our chord progression is a 1, 4, 1, 6 chord progression. So it's going to get to the bridge about walking through the winter or walking in the winter, and this is where the song starts to get a little bit interesting. So in this section, the feel and the sound of the song changes dramatically. It's a very darker, sadder sound, and the reason for this is the use really primarily of minor chords. So in this section, the very first chord is the C sharp minor, and this is where the key change happens. So we're now in C sharp minor. So we're in E major, but now we're in C sharp minor. And the reason why this key change is quite smooth is because C sharp minor is already in the key of E major. So that when we go from E major to the C sharp minor, it sounds nice and smooth because they're in the same key. But we have then changed key when we hit that C sharp minor. Then we use the G sharp minor, and then we've got the F sharp minor. So we've definitely changed key because the sound of our chord progression has changed dramatically. It's not upbeat like in E major. We're primarily using the minor chords. So after that, remember we're still in C sharp minor. They play a B minor. Now this is where things start to get a little bit odd because it shouldn't be a B minor. If you follow the rules, it should be a B major. So if I go through that chord progression, C sharp minor to G sharp minor, F sharp minor to B. So that's how it theoretically should be. But instead we have got So what they've done there, they have substituted a chord, and this simply means that rather than play the B major, they've just substituted in the same minor of it. This happens quite a lot in Beatles songs, and it's quite a common songwriting technique. Now, the reason why they did this, I think it's because this section is essentially split into 2. So the first section is what we've just looked at in C sharp minor, but then it is actually going to change key. So it's going to go from B minor to D minor. And I think if they just kept with the rules and went with the B major, that's going to contrast with the sound that they wanted, that minor, that very sad sound. To have a random B major in it is going to sound a little bit odd, so that's why they substituted it out. That's what I assume anyway. So let's look at the second half of this. So it goes to D minor, and our key has changed. So we've got D minor, and then we have got A minor, and then we have got G minor. Now the eagle-eyed viewers may notice that those chords are a previous section, but up half a step. So that means both these sections utilizes a 1, a 5, and a 4 chord progression. Now it differs slightly here because after the G minor goes to an F major, and again, that is fine, that's in the key of D minor. But then it's going to go to an A chord. Okay, so we've got And again, going with the rules, that should actually be an A minor. But that sounds a little bit odd with the F major. This is what I think they did, is they substituted that chord. So they substituted the A minor for an A major. Now, the reason why I think they did this is to help with the next key change. So the next key change is it's going to go to a D chord. Now, if you know your music theory and your scales, the A chord is the fifth of D, or D major. So again, that provides a really nice transition. And a lot of these substituted chords, I always look at them as like a pivot chord or a transition chord. They're going to transition to most probably a key change, and that's what this one does. So when we get to the D major, our chord progression uses the same intervals as our first two chords when we're in E major. So we've got the D, which is 1, we've got the G, which is 4, back to the D, which is 1, and then for the first time certainly they use this tasty B minor 6 chord progression, but that is still a sixth basically. So we've got 1, 4, 1, and then 6. So it plays that again, but rather than play the B minor 6, it goes back to this A chord. So at the end of this verse, it has this little movement that goes like this. So what it does is it's playing on its one chord in D major, goes to the A, which is the fifth, but then it's going to go to the E major. Now we've definitely changed key, because in D major there isn't a E major, it's E minor. So again, that A chord is a transition, it's a pivot chord to the E major chord. And the reason why that works is because in the key of E major there is an A major. So it's a nice transition, takes you to the E. So this A transition here is a common chord modulation, and all this means is that A is in our current key of D, but it's also in our key that we're going to move to, which is E, and that's why it provides a nice smooth transition as a pivot chord, because it is in both the keys. So that takes us out to an E major chord, which takes us back to the key that we're in for the first two verses of this song. And then that takes us out to the end of the song. So that is why I think this is one of the most underrated pop songs, because really in total it's got 4 key changes in it, and really those key changes are never really jarring. They always feel quite smooth, and you can hear a reason why, certainly for when they go to that minor section in the middle, why they did that. If you like this video, click the like button, click the subscribe and the bell, that way you'll be notified each week when I upload a guitar lesson.